Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to pull back the digital curtain. We're looking at the massive, physical world that's actually powering your online life. And yeah, the surprising environmental cost that comes with every single click, stream, and search. So let's get right into it.
You know, every single time you stream a movie, or jump on a video call, or even ask an AI a question, you're not just dealing with some abstract code in cyberspace. Nope. You're actually firing up a huge physical system. Think of machines just humming away in giant buildings all across the globe. So that brings us to the cloud. We throw that term around all the time, right? It sounds so light and fluffy, weightless. But the reality? Well, it's the exact opposite. Let's really look at the actual hardware that makes it all work.
And that hardware, it all lives in one place. The data center. These things are literally the engines of the internet. We're talking about these incredibly secure, climate-controlled warehouses just packed to the gills with servers, storage drives, all the networking gear. They're pretty much invisible to most of us, but they are the absolute backbone of our digital lives.
And, you know, they're not all the same. They really come in two main flavors. You've got your hyperscale data centers, and these things are just massive. I mean, think millions of square feet, the size of several football fields. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, you have these smaller edge data centers. They're placed much closer to us, the users, to cut down on lag for things like online gaming or smart home devices.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Powering this whole gigantic digital world, well, it comes with a very real and very big environmental cost. And the scary part? That footprint isn't shrinking. It's actually getting bigger every single year.
So just look at the US for a second. Data centers are responsible for about 0.5% of the entire country's greenhouse gas emissions. Now, I know what you're thinking. 0.5%? That doesn't sound like a lot. But wait till you see the context behind that number. That's where it gets wild.
All right, so to put that 0.5% into perspective, for some countries, that's more emissions than their entire airline industry. It's like adding another 5 to 7 million cars to the road. And here's the kicker. If we don't do something, that share could double or even triple by 2030.
And if we zoom out and look at the whole planet, the picture gets even more dramatic. In 2022, data centers chewed through 460 terawatt hours of electricity. But look at the projection for 2026. It's expected to soar past 1,000 terawatt hours. We're talking about more than doubling the energy use in just 4 years. That's just staggering.
And it's not just electricity either. These places are incredibly thirsty. They need a massive amount of water, mostly to keep all those thousands of servers from melting down. We're talking hundreds of millions of gallons of water per year for a single large data center. So what does that much water even look like? Well, to put it into perspective, one of these data centers can use as much water in a year as a small city of, say, 30 to 50,000 people. And you can imagine this becomes a huge problem when these facilities are being built in places that are already struggling with water shortages.
And the environmental hit doesn't just come from running these things 24/7. The hardware itself has a huge footprint. Think about it. Servers usually get replaced every 3 to 5 years. That creates this relentless cycle, from mining for rare earth metals to the carbon-heavy manufacturing process, and finally, a growing mountain of e-waste that's really hard to recycle.
So what's behind this absolutely explosive growth? I mean, yeah, streaming and all our cloud services are a big part of it for sure. But there's a new player in town, a really powerful force that's just flooring the accelerator on demand.
And that new force? It's AI. Artificial intelligence. The amount of raw computing power it takes to train a single large language model, the brains behind tools like today's chatbots, is just mind-boggling. Get this, one training run can burn through more electricity than hundreds of American homes use in an entire year.
So if you could peek inside a data center and see where all that energy is going, what would you find? Well, yeah, the servers and storage doing the actual computing take the biggest slice. But look at this. A staggering 40% of all the energy is spent on just one thing, cooling. Just keeping all that expensive equipment from overheating.
Okay, so with demand just absolutely surging,
The industry is basically in a race against itself. It's a race to find new, innovative ways to get more efficient, to become more sustainable, and to try and get a handle on this growing environmental footprint.
And you know the old saying, you can't improve what you don't measure. In the data center world, the key metric is something called power usage effectiveness, or PUE. It's a pretty simple ratio, really. It's the total power the facility uses divided by the power the IT equipment uses. A perfect score would be 1.0, meaning zero wasted energy. The best modern data centers get really close, maybe 1.1. But older ones, they could be at 2.0 or even higher.
So to get that PUE number down, the industry is trying some really cool stuff. We're talking about next-gen cooling, like shifting to direct liquid cooling, which can slash cooling energy needs. They're also signing these huge power purchase agreements to fund brand new wind and solar farms. Some are even capturing all that waste heat and using it to warm up nearby buildings or greenhouses. And they're focusing more on a circular economy, making servers last longer and designing them to be easier to recycle from the start.
But sometimes the smartest strategies are actually the simplest. One of the biggest wins comes from just consolidation. That means shutting down old, clunky, inefficient data centers and moving all that work to one of these super efficient, modern hyperscale facilities. When you combine that with virtualization, you can take a server that was only being used maybe 15% of the time, which is shockingly low, and boost that to over 60%. You're doing way more work with the same or even less power.
Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? All of these efficiency gains are amazing, they really are. But they're locked in this constant race against our own demand, a demand that's being supercharged by AI. So as our digital world keeps expanding, we really have to ask ourselves, can we innovate our way to sustainability faster than we invent new ways to consume? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.